When you do that and you make an offer that is lowballing, right? What does it do? That sends a clear message. I'm a cheap bastard and probably a crap employer.
Welcome back to another episode of the Profit with Law podcast. Today, we're doing something a little different and something special for you. Last week, we shared part one of the talk I gave at our Law Firm Growth Summit, and today we're bringing you part two. Normally, this is content reserved for summit attendees, but I wanted to make sure you get access to it here on the podcast because if you're serious about growing your team and scaling your firm the right way, this is the stuff that moves the needle. In this second part, I'm going to walk you through how to confidently identify top talent, filter out the wrong candidates fast, and onboard in a way that gets new hires productive from day one, so you can avoid the massive financial drain of a bad hire. Even if you missed part one, you'll still get a ton of value from what I share today. But if you want the full picture, definitely go back and listen to last week's episode after listening to this one. All right, let's jump in and get you one step closer to scaling your firm the smart way.
So I'm just going to review the slides that we went through already, just get everybody back into it. We started with hire slow, fire fast, this idea that it's really expensive to make a bad hire. And we made the case for that. So we talked about why you want to hire slow and fire fast, but you desperately need somebody now. So before you rush into it, just understand this, and I'm not going to run through this again. Go watch the recordings. You can get the VIP pass if you don't have it. It's at least $192,500 expense. Let's just, the example here is an attorney. If you hire an attorney and within 90 days, you fire that attorney, or after 90 days, you fire that attorney. This is the actual cost for you in losing that person. So, but I desperately need somebody now. So what do I do? So the first thing we did is we gave you some alternatives, right? So you got to buy time to eliminate urgency. So you use project-based contract labor, fractional work, refer the cases out, or raise your prices. Again, refer back to the recording to get the detail on all of those. So let's talk about the hiring process. You want to identify firm clarity, you want to identify position clarity, and then you want to recruit, offer, onboard, and trial period. So firm clarity, again, we went through mission alignment, core value alignment. This might not be new. This might be something you're already doing. You've heard about it before. The end of the day, you want to make sure that somebody you're hiring fits well within your office's or your business's culture fit. And that's really what this mission alignment, core values alignment is doing for you. Example of our mission statement here: empowering all people with wealth creation so that this and future generations can lead a better life. And we basically want to hire people who can get in alignment with that mission statement. Our core values: love everybody, be in service to others, pursue growth, enjoy freedom, and live with optimism. We're looking for people who have a match. 2 out of 5 core values is a minimum, and 3 is better. Identify position clarity. So this is when you're hiring for a role, you want to make sure that you're clear about what it is that you're offering into the marketplace, right? What is the role? What is the responsibility? What are the requirements of that position? Where is it located? Is it in person? Is it remote? Is it a hybrid? And what's the salary that you're willing to pay? So we went into this idea that requirements should only be absolutes. Okay, you don't want to make this harder on yourself than is necessary. And the best way that you can play this game is you can say, if I list these requirements out and then I play this game of, well, you've been looking for somebody for 90 days, 3 months. You can't find somebody. Nobody fits every single box. Which of these things would you remove to expand your search, that you'd be willing to settle to expand your search because you can't find anybody? Keep playing that game until you're left with, no, I absolutely cannot forego this requirement. That's the only thing that should be a requirement in your ad, because there's not that many people looking for a job. So if you're looking out for the people who are specifically looking for a job, you want to make sure that you're casting the widest net possible. Let your hiring process be the filter rather than your job posting. Some would argue that your job posting should be the filter, and that is true if what you're hiring for is a dime a dozen. So if you're looking for a bookkeeper, there's so many bookkeepers out there. Definitely put language in there to filter people out. But if you're looking for an attorney who wears white socks and black shoes and chews gum while they walk, then you want to make sure that you're putting as little requirements as possible into your job posting. Location is also really important. People want to work remote. You want to consider a fully remote role if that is something that will work for the position. So if you're doing IP work, right? You could serve a national clientele. Why not have national employees? If you're doing criminal defense, you got to be in court, right? Being in person is a must, but perhaps when it's virtual court, they could do virtual court from home. So you could offer hybrid, right? So you want to consider partially remote as well. Fully in person should only be a mandatory thing for the position when it actually needs to be that way. Otherwise, you're eliminating a good piece of the market because people got used to this idea that there should be flexibility. They should be able to be working from home. They should be able to go attend their kids' thing at school for 30 minutes without needing to ask permission and drive 2 hours each way to make it happen, right? So you gotta just recognize that the marketplace is different today than it used to be. Salary, this is a big one. So we talked about if you want to attract the best talent, you have to pay the best price. Don't advertise a job listing with no salary listed. Be aggressive. This is not the place to be cheap. Raise the base that you're willing to pay. Your posting should be the first one a candidate hopes to get. Both the bottom line number and the top, I strongly recommend a range. Make the upper level of your range an insanely eye-popping number that you can justify with performance-based compensation arrangement. And here's how that would work. Now, I went through this morning, but I'm going to go through it now again just to kind of solidify this idea, because I think that when you think, and this came up in the C-suite mastermind call at lunch, so that's why I want to highlight it. When somebody looks at a job posting, just think about if you were looking for a job and you looked at a job posting, where would your eyes go first? Would you go to see if they allow you to play air hockey during lunch? Would you go to see where it's located? Would you go to see what the requirements are? No, you look at the title of the job. Is this job relevant to me? And you look at what are they paying? And then if the pay catches your eye and the job title is something you can do, then you want to read more about it. So that salary requirement is the exact thing that is getting somebody interested to pursue further. So the rest of your job posting is irrelevant if you didn't catch their attention with that salary. That's why I think that being the highest paying guy in the room in jobs that are very hard to fill, okay? So attorneys are very hard to fill right now, really tight job market. So if you're looking for an attorney, you want to make sure that you're aiming higher than where other people are aiming, because that is going to get the attention of the people that you want to attract. Salary range 120,000 to 400,000 in this example, right? How in the world am I putting 400,000? Some of you are like, I've never made that in my life. And you want me to put it on a job posting? Yes, I do, because they're not going to earn that unless they earn that, right? So let's just talk about what that looks like. You're willing to pay as much as 20% of revenue to the attorney. A really good attorney can do an estate plan in 3 hours or 2 estate plans a day. If they're doing 40 clients a month, right? There's 20 working days in a month. They're doing 2 a day. So they're serving 40 clients in a month. Then you're charging $4,500 an estate plan. And this is a very rough math example, but you're getting the point. That's 2 million, right? It's actually 2.1 million. And 2 million in revenue, if you're giving 20% to the attorney, if you're willing to give 20% to the attorney, which I would think you would, right? If you have an attorney who's churning out $2 million in work, don't think they're going to stay working for you if you're not giving them at least 20%, right? So you're willing to pay them 400,000. So why can't you say that in a job posting? Yeah, if you come work here and you're efficient and you just do your job and make sure to delegate everything you don't need to do, it's possible for you to do $2 million in business for us. And if you do, you will unlock a salary or payment compensation of 400,000. So we're not lying. We're putting real numbers out there. but it's the upper end of the range and it's going to get their attention. On the flip side, what about that bottom number? That bottom number, even at your 20%, which is like, that is the ideal, like, and 20% is not a hard and fast rule across the board. I'm using it as in this example. If you want to understand more about how to calculate that number, definitely reach out to me. We can have a conversation. My team will put in a link to a free strategy session, book a call with me. On the flip side, if you at 20%, if the same attorney only serves 10 clients, so operates at 25% efficiency, right? You're still going to cover their base salary of 120 at max profitability, right? So I don't care that I have to pay them 120 if they're bringing in 500,000, right? Really, 600,000 would be the ideal, right? 600,000. And then look at it one step further, which I didn't put on the slide. How many clients do they have to serve a month for me to cover their salary? Their salary is 120. That's $10,000 a month. Yeah, plus taxes, whatever. So 2 to 3 clients a month. So if they literally do 3 estate plans a month, I cover their salary. Now I can work on the profit, right? And then the gap to that max profit is 7. When you're posting your job, there should be no reason why you're not willing to put a salary range like this. The only reason is because you can't see the possibility, but the moment that they're working for you, they're going to start working, right? You're hiring an experienced person. You're paying them really good money. All right, what's the recruiting phase? This is where we were up to. So we start with posting a job. Now, posting a job is literally looking for a needle in the haystack. Why? Because you're looking for somebody who's looking for a job right here, right now. Guess what? Not everybody is looking for a job right here, right now. As a matter of fact, the really good attorneys are gainfully employed, right? But what happens if somebody happens to be looking right now? We want to have that job posting up there, so we got to do it. So you can post your job at WiseHire, profitwithlaw.com/WiseHire. You don't have to figure out which job boards it should be on. They will disseminate that job posting to like 60 something job boards, including LinkedIn. So they literally do everything for you. Check out the product. It's not expensive. It's like $200 to $300 a month if you're just starting with them. And it's money well spent because you then turn it off when you're not actively hiring somebody. So most key positions are filled through other means, though. And I hate the word poaching, but that's what people understand, so we're going to use it. Poaching and direct referral are where most key positions are filled from. If you want somebody who is going to be a key player in your business, whether it's a high-powered attorney, whether it's a really good operating, office manager or chief operating officer, whether it's a sales leader, right? Sales team leader, you want to bring in somebody who's really good. And if they're really good, they're probably working somewhere. And if they're working somewhere, they may not be actively looking for a job. So most key positions are filled through other means, and we're going to talk about how to do that. Direct referral, communicate with your circle of influence. Think college alumni, judges, clerks, friends, family, other colleagues. Alex Hormozi in his book, Your First 100 Leads, talks about this idea of when you're first starting a business to just take out your phone and just literally reach out to every contact in your phone. Because you're not just reaching out to say, hey, do you want to buy this widget, right? Do you want to buy this thing, right? Like, you have a law firm, right? Do you need legal services? Most of the people you talk to don't need legal services, right? But when you bring them in when you bring them into the conversation, you're saying, hey, I'm offering this. Like, I just started my law firm. I'm offering these services. Do you know anybody? Or if you hear of anybody that might need it, would you mind letting them know? Right? And when you do that, what ends up happening is like your direct circle of influence is maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people, right? So between your phone, your email, your social, you're connected to a couple of thousand people. But everybody that you're connected to is also connected to a couple of thousand people. So by reaching out to your 1,000 to 2,000 people, you're reaching out to potentially 40,000 people, right? And it's exponential from there, right? It really grows from there. Um, the the idea that you want to have is basically that if I don't tell people about it, I'm not going to be like I'm not going to be able to fill it, right? So I have to get the word out. It's the same thing as when you're trying to sell your business. Hiring a position is marketing. It's no different. Poaching. So again, I don't like the word poaching, but I'm using it because that's just what people understand. You want to use cold outreach through phone, social media, direct mail, etc. Now, here's something I learned from my friend Molly McGrath, who's a really great recruiter at Hiring and Empowering Solutions. Um, what she told me is that when you're reaching out to somebody as a law firm looking for somebody, the person on the other end is concerned that somehow their interest in working for you is going to get back to their employer. So one of the things that you want to do is potentially have it be not you that's doing the outreach. So I love the idea of using a VA in this process and have it be coming from somebody who nobody knows. Um, the other thing to think about is instead of saying, "Hey, we're hiring or whatever, are you interested?" You reach out and say, "Hey, we're hiring. Do you have any colleagues that you can think of that you can forward this job posting to who might be interested?" Notice the difference. We've immediately took away the danger by making it about somebody else. Of course, they're going to look at the job posting, and of course, they're going to consider it if it's something that they want to do. And at that point, they can figure out how they want to get around the risk of their employer finding out. All right, the message in any outreach is not, are you looking for a job? It's, do you happen to know anybody who might be interested in this position? We covered that. Consider hiring a professional recruiter. I think professional recruiters are going to do the poaching piece if they're good, right? They're not going to have your network. So you still should do your direct referral outreach. But they'll do the job posting, they'll do the poaching, and they might get you results. I think that you do this and that, right? Now, a lot of firm owners don't believe me and they start with just posting a job. And then 2, 3 months later, they say, this is not working. What do I do? Then they start reaching out to their network. They may get more visible online that, hey, we're hiring. Then that doesn't work. Then they, like hiring the recruiter is the last step when they're giving up on everything else. Earlier, I made a case for the cost of not hiring somebody or the cost of hiring somebody and it being the wrong hire. Those same costs exist. Your ability to bring somebody in who's going to be tracking $80,000 months is being delayed by you taking the long route in this process. Don't do that. If you know you need to hire somebody, do all of these things at the same time. Hit all the points. Have a mass filtration process on the front end to just kind of eliminate the looky-loos, the tire kickers, or the people who are irrelevant to the job. So we just want to make sure that we're not wasting our time with somebody who's really not interested, doesn't meet the qualifications, and so on. If you're hiring an attorney, make sure have somebody on your team filter through and make sure they're actually an attorney. If you're looking specifically for somebody with experience in a specific practice area, which I strongly recommend that you do for anybody who's in this room probably needs to hire somebody with experience who can hit the ground running. So you want them to have the experience in the right area. If they don't have that, can we settle? And one of my clients recently, we had this conversation, right? She does real estate litigation. Maybe she's in the room. Does real estate litigation. And we talked about expanding that to just attorneys that do any kind of litigation, because if a trial attorney is a trial attorney, right? And they understand the motions that need to happen in court. They understand how to represent their client. So the particular nuance in the area of law is different, but the skill set's there. So if that's the requirement, don't make it the specific practice area, make it the skill set, but have a mass filtration process. Like if they were never a trial attorney, they're out, right? We're not even going to have a conversation with them because we're not here to train them. We're here to hire somebody that we're going to pay good money to have somebody who's going to hit the ground running at the moment they walk in the door. Have a way to assess skill and quality of work. We have this right now. We're hiring a senior tax accountant. I put together an exercise that my team is sending out. And not only do they have to complete the exercise, which filters out a ton of candidates because they're like, oh, I'm not doing this. Okay, great. Then you're not going to do anything that I ask you to do. So why should I even interview you? If you want the job, then you should do the exercise. And then when they do the exercise, now I can look at it and I can assess, were they diligent in looking at this? Did they consider all the angles? Did they, and the exercise I gave for the nerds in the room is fill out the form for a home office deduction. There's a lot of variables there, right? Like, did they look at the house and figure out what the cost of the land is properly in order to depreciate the house properly? Did they allocate the repair costs correctly as far as capital, expenditures versus repairs that happen during the year? So there's all these little monkey wrenches thrown into that little exercise that seems pretty straightforward and simple, but it's going to really help me see the cream rise to the top, right? It's going to really help me see that somebody who's putting in that application knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about. As a matter of fact, we got a submission where they filled out the form, but they didn't send any backup information of how they arrived at the numbers. He properly allocated some cost to land, which is non-depreciable, but he didn't tell me how he got that. So I turned to my team and I said, go back and ask him for the backup documentation. Ask him to demonstrate his work because he may have done it absolutely correctly, but I don't know. So those kinds of things where you can do some sort of test that is not a major project. We don't want them spending a ton of time on it, but is assessing their ability to be able to step in and do the job on day one. Perform multiple interviews. This is something that you should do. It doesn't have to be the same person on the team. So you could start with a lower level staff member interviewing just for, are they nice to me on the phone? Do they appear cheerful and bubbly, or they sound like the world's coming to an end? Like just some basic, filtration at the beginning to see, do I just feel good about this person? Then we get into more meeting with them to see if they're going to be a good fit for the role. But I suggest multiple interviews so that it's kind of like, if you think about it, look at it like dating, right? You're not going to make a determination about whether you're going to marry somebody by going on one date, right? Why do you go on multiple dates? Why do you date them for a long period of time, right? Now, dating is a bad example because you're not going to have them dating you for a long period of time, right? You're going to make a decision. But a little bit more of their color comes out as they lower their guard. So the more interviews that you have, the more likely you're seeing a more true version of that person because they get comfortable. They don't stay on guard as long and they start to act themselves. And that's, and that will help you in that process. So you can't string them along for too long because you're not going to keep them on the hook. And you also need to hire somebody. But at least 3 interviews, probably not too much. Dave Ramsey, in his book, Entre Leadership, or whatever it's called, he wrote that book many years ago. He describes that at least for their higher level executives, they do a minimum of 7 interviews, 7 meets in the interview process. To me, it feels like a lot, but if you can pull that off, I don't think there's any harm in doing that. I think that that's really good. Assess for likability, assess for character, assess for organization. When at all possible, do at least 1 in-person interview, even for a remote position. We're hiring a senior tax accountant. We're going to be paying them good money. We opened it up as a remote position, so anybody in the world can apply, but anybody in the U.S. is where we're going to be hiring. Most likely, when I make that decision, we're going to fly that person here so that I can meet them in person before I make that hiring decision. It's worth it to spend a day and a few $1,000s to avoid a bad hire. I think that's something important to consider. We use the Kobe assessment. So Kobe has a right fit assessment. The manager takes a Kobe C assessment, and the candidate takes a Kobe A assessment. And then we match the two. And what this is assessing for is it's assessing for compatibility between what the manager is expecting of the person versus what the person is able to do. And it's not a knowledge-based assessment. So it's assessing for basically like how you approach problem solving and your ability to solve problems and to operate under certain duress and certain environments. So we find the Kobe assessment to be highly accurate, meaning if you're doing a B or better, B plus, or an A, you're probably a really good fit for the role. A B minus, probably not a good fit for the role. However, if every other box has been checked, this person's like the ideal candidate, but they got a B minus, I don't know that I would exclude them for that. But if they get a C, it's a no. It's an absolute no. Even if they checked all the other boxes, this thing it's not wrong. If it's a C, they're not gonna thrive in that role. It's not gonna work out long term. Of course, there's exceptions to every rule, but you can also just come up with your own assessments that you do. Now, do not cheap out on me here. This is the offer phase. So we we finally have a candidate who we like that we're going to hire. And I can't tell you how many times I've had a coaching client get to this place. They've been at this for so long, and they're finally making an offer. And the person said, my minimum salary requirement is $80,000. And they turn around and they make an offer and they say, I'm going to pay you 70 with the ability to get to 80 when you achieve XYZ. Don't do that. This is what's happening when you do that and you make an offer that is lowballing, right? What does it do? That sends a clear message. I'm a cheap bastard and probably a crap employer. That's what you're telling them. Recognize that saving that $10,000 or that $15,000 or $20,000 for whatever that lower ball offer is not worth alienating this person who has made it all the way to this place before you even get started, and sending a really poor signal to them. Even if they do accept it, they still get the signal. That's not the way you want them to start. You want them to start with an offer above their stated desired salary. There you send a message, you're highly valued. We're going to continue to recognize the value you bring. They start with their foot in the right foot forward because they're excited. Here's somebody who not only did they give me what I asked for, but they gave me 5,000 above it, or they told me that in 90 days if I achieve XYZ, I'm going to go up to 5 or 10,000 above it, right? That is how you start off on the right foot with somebody. So the only exception is if you've had clear communication with them and you basically presented them with this idea and you said, I don't want to assume your situation. Would you prefer that I tie more of your salary to performance and less of a base? Or would you prefer that the base is higher? And if you have clear conversation around it and they prefer to be more performance-based compensation, then you can totally do it as long as your performance-based compensation is going to get them where they want to go and it's fair. So that's the exception to this rule. But don't alienate your top candidate. You're finally at the finish line. All right, enough about that. Onboarding phase and trial period. In the onboarding phase and trial period, I kind of merged these together. Basically, the onboarding is just kind of, get them acclimated into the system. Have a process for this so that it doesn't look like you're a fish out of water. Have them set up properly on their IT systems. Have them, there's nothing more alienating than walking in the door on your first day and you can't log into the computer. You don't know how you're supposed to do your job, right? Like, if it's not you, have somebody on your team be the person that is going to communicate with them, welcome them into the office, show them how to access the systems they need to access, show them how to answer the phone, show them all the basic things. Where's the bathroom? Where do you go to get lunch? There's so much that you can do in those first 2 or 3 days to make somebody feel really welcome, take all the angst off of starting a new position, and just accelerate the process of getting them to actually working on files, right? So that's the onboarding process. The trial period is really the what I want to get at here, and that's Clear objectives and timelines for the entire period. 90 days are recommended. So for example, week 1, 20 files assigned to you. Week 2, complete at least 2 files. Week 4, your revenue and billing at least $10,000. And notes and time entries are completed daily, right? This is just an example, but very clear mile markers and very clear expectations during that. What that does is it gives the person who you hired very clear signals of whether they're doing okay. Now, if they're missing those mile markers, they also know I'm not hitting those numbers. And now you've given them the ability to raise their hand and say, hey, I know that you had this expectation for me, but I'm struggling to be able to accomplish it. Can you help me? Like, is there something I'm doing wrong? And that, if somebody came to me with that, that would be a clear signal that they are an A player because they want to achieve the result. If they know they're missing their objectives and they don't ask for help, they're not discussing it, they're kind of avoiding the issue, and you have to call them out on it, that's a bad signal. So having this in place really helps you to further filter this person on whether they are a keeper or not. Consider a bonus for exceeding expectations. Now, this could be stated or it could be a surprise. So the benefit of it being stated is you're giving them a carrot to aim for. That's a quick win, quick, money in their pocket, and you get what you want, which is getting them to true productivity fairly quickly, right? Or you can just say, hey, I want to see how they do. I want to see the effort they put in without me dangling anything. But if they exceeded my expectations and I thought it was going to take them 90 days to be fully booked and working 6 hours a day on client work with the time entries and everything done properly, and we're 4 weeks in and they're already doing it, well, we just truncated my 90-day timeline into 4 weeks. That's worth something. I'm going to write them a check. I'm going to walk in. I'm going to say, so far you're doing a great job, and I just want you to say that because you've gotten to this point so quickly, I want to give you a bonus for that. Here you go. How awesome is that if you could do that, right? So if they're not meeting expectations, this is where that fire fast comes in, right? You need to do a rapid assessment, whether it could be fixed quickly. And if yes, remediate, but put on a time frame for that remediation. This is where we get stuck because we see the best in everybody, right? We have hopes that we can change them and fix them. But if they're not entering their time into the system and you can't bill your clients, and it's a bad example because I'm not a big hourly person, but it's a great example for you to understand, right? If they're not entering their time into the system and therefore you can't bill, what are they worth? So if we have a remediation conversation and I give them the tools and I tell them, here, I'm going to give you the timular where you turn the dice onto a different side based on what you're doing. Then you're going to, at lunch, but right before you break for lunch, you're going to spend 20 minutes to go through that data and enter it into the computer. At the end of the day, you're not going to leave until the time entries are done. And I'm willing to accept a lower level of productivity so you can get your time entries done. And they're still not doing it. Cut and run. Cut and run. Right? We need to let them go because it's not going to get fixed 6 weeks later. It's not going to get fixed 12 weeks later. You're paying them. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You're losing the productivity of the next person who's coming in behind them. You need A players in, and if they're demonstrating B or C status, it's time to move on from them. This is the biggest employer trap and will cost you big if you let it ride. And here's the summary. Key to your growth and success is the leverage you gain with really good employees. Good employees are worth getting paid, and you will lose them or fail to find them if you don't pay them well. You need to give yourself the room to be able to assess for the best and not rush into the decision. Making the wrong hire is far more costly than paying too much and is probably one of the biggest reasons for slow growth. Most law firm owners, this is important, I didn't cover this yet. Most law firm owners won't try again right away, which further compounds the issue. And I know this from my coaching programs. When somebody makes a bad hire, I mean, they made a good hire, right? But then it turns out not to be a good hire. It turns out to be a bad hire. What ends up happening is that you get all up in your head. I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to filter people through this process. I make bad decisions. I am poor. I'm a poor judge of character. There's all of these meanings that get attached to it. And what does that do? it makes you not want to go through this process again. The problem is that you need to find a good person in order to move the needle forward in your business. So the best thing for you to do in this situation is to get past it and move on. The reality is that it's really hard, and most people don't. And they take time, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. So what ends up being, what should have been 90 days later, I'm on my way to another $1 million in revenue. I'm now in a holding pattern, circling the airport for a year and a half, waiting to land this plane. So don't do that. Don't get stuck. Don't beat yourself up. The best hiring managers have years of experience and they hire hundreds of people a year. Most small law firm owners are going to hire maybe, 50 people in your entire career directly. At some point, you're going to have people on your staff doing the hiring. You're not going to be doing it yourself anyway, right? You don't have to become the best hiring person. You just need to have a process that you follow and you need to stick to it. Don't make exceptions based on your gut, because if they don't check a box, they don't check a box, and it's going to come back to bite you. But get back in the game when you are at that stage.
I hope you enjoyed that amazing content replay from the Law Firm Growth Summit. Folks, if you need help, guidance along the way, that's what we do here at Profit with Law. Whether you're a solo trying to expand beyond yourself, or you've got 4 or 5 attorneys on staff, you're doing $4 or $5 million in revenue, we can help you. We've got coaching for solo to smalls. We've got fractional CFO services for the larger firms, 2 million plus. But it all starts with a strategy session. That strategy session is absolutely free. One of my teammates will have that call with you, and what they're going to do on that call is help you to get clarity around where you're headed. What are you actually trying to create? What are the obstacles that are in your way? And more importantly, how do you overcome those obstacles? Imagine that you can get all of that clarity in 30 minutes. Believe it or not, you actually can. We have a systemized process of extracting that information from you and helping you get to that level of clarity. When you leave the call, you're going to feel so much better about the growth and direction of your business. And if you want us at your side along the way, we can discuss what that looks like. But the 30-minute session is all about you, all about creating that clarity for you. You can book it now at profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. Take care.